Please help me welcome Jay Adelson. Thanks.
Hey everybody, I'm Jay Adelson. Thanks for having me here today. I've been asked to, in about 8 minutes or so, explain why collaborative filters matter. Now, anyone who knows me knows that for me to get to the point in an hour is difficult at best. So I'll do my best to cover some of this. Why does this matter? First of all, how many of you would say you've used a collaborative filter in the last day, say 24 hours? All right, well, how many of you used Google in the last 24 hours? All right, a lot more of you. How many of you used Digg? Let's just see. Even more. Well done. Anytime you take the interests, the preferences, or as Joshua Schachter likes to say, the foibles of a group, and use that information to filter and create relevance for an individual or a larger group, that's really collaborative filtering. And really, a search engine is a form of collaborative filtering. Now, when search engines were first created, the data set about you, the individual, was much more shallow. We didn't know as much about you. And so how would you build rank? Well, one way was PageRank and backrub, this idea of looking back and seeing what IT managers and web developers would point to with links. The other way would be clicks. That's your point of contact, a very explicit action where you type into a box and get a result. This has changed a lot. There's new forms of collaborative filtering. I'm going to get to all that because as this shift has happened, as we have become more involved with the web, the data set that we are providing into the various collaborative filters and the work that all of you have done in creating the Web 2.0 really matters in terms of where they can take us and the relevance of data on the web. So what's changed? OK, so I described, I'm going to take my coat off. I described a world where it was very explicit. Well, now you're on the web 24 hours a day. I think in 2003, Berkeley said that there was about 7.3 million new websites, web pages added to the internet every day. I think now we have something like a terabyte of data added to the internet every day. Well, one of the reasons why there's so much is because it's dynamic. It's real time. It changes. We Twitter everything, including whether we paint our toenails or what we're eating or where we're traveling. We post to our friend networks on social networks. This data is extremely voluminous, and it's dynamic. And it tells us something about you. Well, that's perfect for me, building a collaborative filter, because I can use that information to somehow sort through this and make a better and more effortless experience. The other thing that's changed is privacy, the sense of privacy. And it took me a while to figure this one out. But one of the things that opened the floodgates here was that the younger generation doesn't have those same issues associated with privacy that we have had or my parents had. And so they're willing to share more information. Classic example would be how I use my away message on AIM. For me, it's I'm at lunch or I'm away or I'm here, right? Whereas my teenage babysitter will say, I'm feeling down right now. I'm feeling better. I'm full. I've eaten enough. Whatever. This idea of lots of personal and private data sharing with your world has opened up those floodgates. And so this is going to change as we move from even more from a seek culture, the one where we type a word into a box at a computer and get a result back, to one where we're constantly connected. So why Web 2.0? Why Digg and all these companies? One way to think of this is to break it down into 3 parts. There's the generic collaborative filter, like a search engine, or you might even look at Digg's front page this way, where I'm looking at a zeitgeist, a large group of people's input to something. That could be very useful for also a large group of people who are consuming the same data. Right? Then we have the social networks where I create a subset community of people who are my friends, and maybe I watch their activity streams. This is filtering content a different way. Now, I don't know about you, but a lot of my friends aren't anything like me. So I can't use them as a judging factor of what content might be interesting to me. But it's still interesting. I still log into Twitter, Facebook. I watch this stuff, my friends' activity on Digg, and so forth. But really the exciting thing, and if there's one point I could leave you with today, is this hyper-personalization opportunity. It's the next step of collaborative filtering. It's this idea that instead of looking at a social network that you've created yourself, that you've entered in the names, I'm going to look at all of you, everyone, and I'm going to compare you all together. I'm going to find people that are like you, and I'm going to use that collective wisdom to actually find things that are more specifically interesting to you. Like in our recommendation engine today, we have a bit of this, but if you look at Netflix, I might look at everyone who's into horror movies across the world as they rent those horror movies, which ones are the best, and maybe figure out for you specifically what you're interested in. Particularly since your personal data is going to move from one website to the next. We're about to add like 90 million Facebook users as registered users on Digg. That's a lot of personal data. What can I do with it? How can I take that information so that your front page experience is specific to you versus the rest of the public? And there's value to both of these different perspectives, this, the zeitgeist point of view versus the personalization. But I think that that's a huge, important shift on how these collaborative filters will affect the development of websites, because you can monetize that. People talk about the lack of monetization on social networks. Well, if I knew exactly what you were interested in, where you were located, your GPS location, what you did in the last hour, what you've read over the last 3 years, I might be able to target an ad better or sell your product better. And so these collaborative filters really are the key to the monetization of these Web 2.0 applications. I'm excited because when I think about the future of Digg, in particular, we have 16,000 submissions a day to the Digg platform. How are we going to take all of that data and make it interesting and relevant without this idea of a collaborative filter? Initially, all I had was digs and berries. But I have a lot more data about when you use the system, where you're coming from, what categories you've been interested in over what period of time. This is the data that's going to help me change not just the upcoming section, but the front page. And we are extremely excited about being able to roll that out in the future. And it's not just Digg. I think that we're moving from a world like Amazon, where you go and you buy a pair of shoes, and then a week later you go to buy a CD, and it said, wouldn't you like another pair of shoes? To a world where now, because of the portable information, you can go back and it actually can intuit, well, you've been walking a lot this week. And I know you've been walking a lot this week because your Nike connection to your iPod tells us so, assuming that you allow that information with your privacy rules. And I might be interested in selling you a pair of shoes at that point. Anyway, so I know 8 minutes, not a lot of time to talk about collaborative filtering, but that's my go at it. Thank you very much.